You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey all, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 174. My name is Clark from 5cardguys.com and 5cardguys on Instagram. With me co-hosting as usual is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John, who is Trade You at Recess. And you can find all our IG handles in the show notes below. All right, guys, off the top, if you didn't hear already, Leaf Trading Cards is under new ownership with Orange Mountain Capital acquiring them. To tell you the truth, I don't know much about Orange Mountain Capital, but I assume they're ready to invest more capital, pardon the pun, into the Leaf brand. Now, with the other recent news, I think John, you brought this up. You brought this to our attention earlier. The Rocks signed some new autograph cards with Leaf, and so yeah, it looks like things are turning the corner for Leaf a little bit. And Brian Gray stepped down. They got a new CEO as well. So with all that development, do you think Leaf can become a bigger player in the hobby?
Oh, I think they could. There's opportunity, I think, but I don't think the hobby's big enough to kind of be like, wow, there's a new Leaf in town. Because truthfully, I've tried Googling that company. I can't get anything on them at all. So
yeah. Same.
I mean, I like the play by them if you think about it. Like pop culture, if they get the right people on board and being valuable to a company like Fanatics, I think there might be a play in that sense. But I don't think there's going to be an immediate hobby impact where it's just like I'm going to be collecting Justin Bieber's auto or Rock's auto all of a sudden, right? I think if you're in that space, you're a fan of Leaf anyways. Maybe not a fan of Brian Gray, is it?
Yep.
But
former
CEO.
Yeah,
a lot of I think it was like polarizing. Some love him, some hate him. But I don't think there's going to be immediate impact on Leaf, the brand itself, unless maybe they're doing something totally different in pop culture that ends up sticking really well, right? So, but I will say I run into a lot of Leaf die-hard fans still. So I will say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
What do you think, John?
Well, I'm like you guys. You just mentioned Orange Mountain. I know nothing about that. And the fact that you guys tried to look them up and didn't really find anything, I think this is kind of like a non-impact, non-news for the time being. But could Leaf turn things around? Yeah, I could see that. I think if they go, first things first, if they take their Pop Century product and they go on-card autos with all the celebrities, I think that product would be really big. I think get away from the freaking sticker autos first order of business, and I think that'll start to pump up their tires a bit. So that would be my. I mean, easier said than done. Yada yada yada. Right. I'm sure, but if they can pull that off, I think that's going to really catapult them in the right direction.
But with those sticker autos, what Leaf is really good at are those quad auto cards, okay? They're the ones that pump out those quad autos, There's a ton of them from Leaf. And, it's easier to do when you have sticker autos of some of these celebs, right? I think the big thing, or the thing I would be most excited about, and this is older news, is the new CEO, Kevin O'Neill. Like, I hear buzz about him as an actual industry guy, experienced, more than this latest news of Orange Mountain Capital. Yeah. Like you, Hyung, I looked them up and I don't know how much money they have, like what their past investments are, So it looks like, I also think it could be a good thing for them, because Leaf does have a brand. Yeah, just have some brand recognition, right? So, maybe they work to get bought out by even bigger company. That might be their play in secret. So I would keep my expectations in check. But for Leaf collectors, there's got to be not bad news, that's for sure. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was an interesting development to hear that pop up on my Instagram feed the other day. All right, let's move on now to hobby headlines. I was actually going to lead with a story, but thought since we're almost at the end of 2023, and around this time, when I was a journalist, we would start to think about writing year-end stories, like all the significant events that have happened since January to now. So with that in mind, I wanted to first talk about the big mistake made by Panini when they put the Victor Wembanyama Prizm Nebula 1 of 1 in one of their Prizm hobby boxes instead of the Prizm choice boxes where it should have been. Right. Okay, so that was a big mistake. Now, after getting your initial reactions on that, I thought we could revisit some of the big mistakes in the hobby in 2023, and for fun, let's just rank them compared to this Wemby mistake. All right, so first, let's talk about how bad do you think this mistake is for Panini, and what are your theories on what might have happened
with the Prizm?
With the Prizm Nebula 1 of 1, yes.
So what's it would be in the regular Prizm would be just the black, I'm assuming.
I guess so. I'm not 100% sure about that either, to tell you the truth.
Regular Prizm would be,
I guess,
black
in choice
and shimmer black.
But then they would, if you're ripping choice, then you'd be pretty upset that.
Right.
Of course, that's the card to get in choice.
That's the card, yeah. What can you do about it? Like it's kind of like if it's already pulled, right? It's kind of like, well, how do you repay? Or, I mean, there's nothing you can do. It was a big mistake, and
I guess you can make
now
a new
there's
one.
a bigger chase, yeah.
Make a new one with a different image,
and then have a bounty out for it.
You know what? Do what Bowman did, and I will talk about this later. A duplicate Nebula.
Oh man, imagine! Could you imagine?
But I mean, but that's what I'm talking about, though. Like, I would be pissed if I was ripping choice, and I'm like, what the hell? Someone got the Nebula from a hobby box, and that what does that do? I guess Panini's in a precarious position anyways with their future up in the air. But do you know what I mean? It's not good for Panini.
Yeah, for sure. And it's such a big card. I don't know if you could do anything really, right? I mean, it's
hope
been
people forget, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, your thoughts, John?
Well, I think we chatted about this a long time ago, but it makes me think that I know there's been murmurs about the cards all coming out of the same factories. And, I don't know if you guys remember one of the breakers, like ripping Prizm. What was it? They were ripping like Topps Chrome or something, and they ended up getting like Optic in the packs.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So things like that. So I think there's little clues, and it seems coincidental that both Topps and Panini continue to make these sort of quality assurance type issues. So it makes me think that number one might be coming from the same factory. Number two, somebody at the factory is, or some production line of people are really kind of screwing up, whether it's on purpose or not. I don't know what's happening, but yeah, I feel like it's kind of coming from the same source. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, could be. I wouldn't be surprised at anything at this point. But yeah, I guess we'll see where you're kind of saying at the very beginning, the black Prizm 1 of 1 and the black shimmer. I'm assuming that's got to be coming out of the hobby boxes. It would be bad if I don't know if it would be bad or good if it came out of the choice boxes, just to make things even. Right? Yeah. Like, oh shoot, we mixed it up. But they're both great cards. Yeah. I haven't heard anything from Panini in terms of
no release
rectifying this error.
Right. I mean, public statement.
I don't know if they are going to. They got lawsuits with Fanatics, and they're just like busy with other more important things. So I guess we'll keep an eye out, but it's not a good look for Panini, that's for sure. And yeah, what more can we say at this point? That's why I wanted to compare this mistake. So let's have your ranking up there. That's as one of the mistakes that I'm going to present to you. The second one is, do you remember, I think it was in January or even February of this year, okay, the Babe Ruth 2022 National Treasures 1 of 1 cut signature booklet card that had the wrong cut autograph on it. If you remember, the autograph didn't belong to Babe Ruth. It belonged to George Brett. And that was something we also discussed on the pod. Everyone was tweeting about it on social. Compare that to the Wemby 1/1 here. Which one was worse in your opinion?
Well, so the George Brett Babe Ruth cut was a George Brett auto.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, George Brett's cut auto in a Babe Ruth
right?
booklet.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
I think the George Brett one
Is
for
worse?
sure is worse. If I get a 1/1 Babe Ruth like cut auto, but there are rumors that the wife might have signed that too. So I don't know.
Babe Ruth.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of conspiracies floating around.
Like Luka's mom, similar to that.
Yeah, like you got Luka's mom signing, you got Babe Ruth's sister, his brother, husband signing it. Like I don't know. But I think that's a bigger error, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because it's not like the Wemby's still out. Like it's still the card. It's not like it's the wrong card. It just came out of the wrong box.
Right.
So it's out there. It's still a 1/1. But then the Babe Ruth one's like, where's my Babe Ruth? I have a George Brett.
Okay. George Brett, Babe Ruth, same kind of person.
I do like George Brett though. George Brett was the man, but
George
Babe
Brett
Ruth,
was
I would
awesome.
rather have a 1/1 cut auto of Babe Ruth.
They're both bad. I'm gonna go the other way. I think
Damn Panini.
Babe Ruth was bad, but you can get it rectified because it comes out of the same product. I think the choice is worse because that's just odd. Like Nebula Choice 1/1 is like the chase for people who purchase the choice product, and the main chase is gone. It's like getting the Babe Ruth cut auto randomly out of a different product, and also all of a sudden National Treasures has been known to have a 1/1 Babe Ruth every time, and now it doesn't have it, right?
Right.
So right. I think, how do you rectify this? Do you make another 1/1? Like, did they just ruin the product, like choice completely? Is it, if they do like a first off the line style or whatever, the Dutch auction style is going to completely ruin that pricing? Like, I don't know. Like, I think the the choice Nebula mistake is bigger.
I'll break the tie. I'm going to side with John on this one because the Babe Ruth card issue was rectified, right? Mm-hmm. They actually had a cut auto of Babe Ruth, and they gave that card to the person that pulled the George Brett cut auto error card. So, and that begs another question, like how many cut autos of Babe Ruth do they have lying around, right? So, and I think we mentioned that in passing as well. So that's another thing altogether. But I think, it's, just as we talked about, how does Panini fix the Wemby error? It's hard to do that. So I'm with you on that one, John. Okay, next, how can we forget the duplicate superfractors in the 2023 Bowman Chrome boxes? It's kind of self-explanatory. And we did discuss this in depth in past podcast episodes. How bad was that mistake, in your opinion, compared to Wemby for you, John, and the George Brett cut auto for you, Hyung?
I would say I think the superfractor is a massive, massive error, more than the Panini, because you have duplicates, right? So for me, that's a bigger issue than it being in the wrong product, because at the end of the day, when it blows over, people are gonna remember the story, but people are not gonna be like, oh my god, that came out of a choice box, or that came out, as long as the stuff is rectified. But I think having duplicates, it also makes me kind of like wonder about duplicates in general, because the story in Bowman Chrome with a lot of these older collectors, they said this isn't something new.
Right.
They've seen this around, they've seen things circulating, and that made me really scratch my head about superfractors. It's like, hey, are you sure you have the only superfractor available if you have, let's just say, a 2017, 2016, 2018 Bowman Chrome card, right? So I think that's a bigger hiccup on Topps's part, more so than Panini. It seems like Panini is all internal, but obviously both of them are, but the duplicate of a superfractor that should only be a 1/1, I think that's the bigger error for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's no question the duplicate triple superfractors, that's for sure the worst mistake.
Right.
I mean, clearly just how much it cost Topps in money because of the bounties they had to create.
The buyback,
Yeah, it tells you a lot how much of a mistake that was. It turned out to be a great mistake for the hobby because people ripping now have like a monster chase in terms of money value. But yeah, no question. I think, conspiracy theorists now, it's just going to start to run rampant. Like Hyung was kind of mentioning, like people thinking, okay, is this the first time this has happened? Because of that, I think it not only is it a big one-time mistake, it also kind of questions the integrity of all of their products kind of moving forward. So yeah, big mistake. That's probably, for me, I think it's the biggest one.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be a sweep. And the only thing I'll add is, even with the bounty, the buyback program, which is great, but just say one of those prospects does become big. The reality is that there's two out there. I think it ultimately devalues that duplicate superfractor card, right? Like most of them will go to zero anyways, because not all of those prospects will pan out, right? So the bounty that you get from, I think 3,000 is the lowest. I might be wrong, but you would certainly take that for now if you had one. But in the future, if you had one and you're into the prospecting game, like even the best prospects, I think there's a limit on the upper value because there's more than one of the superfractor. So that's my thought on that. So yeah, I think we're in agreement. Sorry, Bowman Chrome, you made the biggest hobby mistake of 2023. The prize is yours there. I want to round things off by comparing. Well, let's compare the 2023 Bowman Chrome duplicate superfractor error as well as the Wemby error to the more classic hobby mistakes. All right, and I got a couple in mind. The 1990 Topps Frank Thomas rookie card that was printed without his name on the front of the card, now famously referred to as the Frank Thomas no name on front error card. If that happened today, right? If they came up with a card and you're like, oh shoot, like we forgot to put the name on the front of the card.
They did that to Luis Roberts purposely. Manufactured.
Right, did they?
Manufactured error. He has a SSSP no name.
Okay.
And it basically kind of mimics that Frank Thomas card. But going back to the Frank Thomas card, I think error cards were cool in the 90s because there were no variations. So it was a way that error cards became the kind of like not a chase, but it was known to be out there because you heard rumors. There wasn't the internet where it's like, hey, do you know about this error card? It's like, no, I heard from a buddy that told a buddy that there was this error card, and that's the only way to know about this error card. And it was almost like a myth, right? Like all these error cards in the 90s, whether it's the Frank Thomas, whether it's Dale Murphy 89 Upper Deck, that was a big error card, the reverse negative, and then even like the Jose Uribe, like all those cards, right?
Wasn't there like a Randy Johnson one?
Yeah.
Like Marlboro cigarettes? The advertisement in the back?
Yes. And then the Billy Ripken obviously is another. I was going to mention that. Yeah. So I think the scarcity is the error cards in previous generations, whereas now it's a manufacturing blunder where it's kind of like more of an embarrassment that, like when somebody says I have an error card, it's like no one would want it because it's ugly now, right? But it's just a manufactured error.
Yep, true. The Frank Thomas no name 1990 Topps card. There's only one PSA 10 version of it, just for a little bit of context, and that sold last year around this time for $170,000.
Oh, that's nuts!
So
how many are graded? Because I know even I remember even the PSA 7s and 5s were going for a lot of money.
Yeah, I know the PSA 10 is a pop one, but in terms of how many are graded, I'll have to look. PSA 9, there's 19 of them, and that last sold for $17K.
Damn.
Yeah. Total graded PSA population, 274 on record. So yeah.
So maybe like 1,000 total. There's probably a bunch on BGS and SGC.
Yeah, actually about 400, just over 400 with BGS and SGC.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I just want to circle back to, of course, the famous one. I think the most famous, most iconic error card is the Bill Ripken, the F face on the knob of the bat. if that happened today, like if it somehow passed QC, and and then people saw like, oh, there's a swear word on this. Do you think it will get the same attention as the Bill Ripken card, or is it different now?
I think it's different now. Like I said in my previous statement, it's I think it's kind of like remember the Ja Morant card with
with Young Dolph or whatever.
Yeah, like stuff like that where there was a hype, but then now it's just like meh, like it's not.
I think that card is still his.
It's that card's
most valuable base rookie card, right? I think.
Yeah, because there's
there's so many different celebrities on that.
Yeah. So that might be a bad example, but in general, I think a card that might have slipped the quality control. I think there's no collectability in my opinion. Like there's no desire because there's so many different parallels. Like I'd rather have this card than spend $500 on a ugly card that's supposedly an error card, but who wants this anyways?
Right. I think I know where.
Like I was thinking, who's buying the Jose Uribe anyways? Like, like it's insane. It's like really.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I half agree with Hyung because I know where Hyung's going with it. Like if there's a no name, I don't think people would care. If there's like a miscut, it was, at first you saw the LeBron miscut in Prizm and you thought it was pretty cool until you found out that they're miscutting everything. So it's like, okay, it's not really that rare. Right. Maybe a stat is wrong on the back and one has a stat, one doesn't. Those classic error cards or period is missing. I don't think people would care about that. I don't think that's cool enough to warrant. It was something that it was in the junk wax era. But specifically to like Billy Ripken, I think if something like that happened where it's a part of the image, like they captured, I don't know, like there's a picture of like Taylor Swift kissing another man when she's like married to Travis Kelce or something like that, like in the photo. That would be huge, Like I think if it's captured in the image when it wasn't supposed to be captured and it's on the card, that's not really a manufacturer's error. It's just like a crazy thing that happened to pass quality assurance, right? So I think specific to Billy Ripken and like the Ja Morant with the Young Dolph in the background, I think those kinds of, I don't even know if you can call that a mistake, but coincidences or whatever, I think it's totally collectible. But in terms of those itty bitty little mistakes, like printing errors and this, I think that stuff is out the window now. That's no longer collectible, but yeah.
I kind of agree with both of you, but I do there being so many different parallels that resonates with me the most in terms of why all the things now, or if the errors happen now, it would just be a lot different. How we receive it, right? And I think it goes back to what you're saying, John, in the last episode. Like, just get rid of all those parallels, and then just make them pizza fractors, donut fractors, and make a chase out of each one.
Yeah, I could go down with the pizza fractor.
I thought that was a genius idea. I
do like the pizza fractor.
And even if we talked about how like Will was frustrated that you don't even get a $20 gift card, I think if you just put a complete utility, it'd be amazing because all of that trash would be out of circulation anyways. So in the end, all you end up with is the base cards and then the silvers or whatever, and then all of the numbered OG parallels, right? Like perfect. The other parallels did their thing. The utility was there, and now they're out of production. So
I do think utility is the way to make that user experience like top notch.
Yeah, agree.
100%. So we all agree that in the future, Taco Bell and Pizza Hut should keep those ugly parallels. Let them deal with it and take them out of circulation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that was kind of fun. just a reminisce about the hobby mistakes of this past year, and I feel like 2023 certainly seemed to have a lot more than usual. But we'll see what. Mm-hmm. Yeah, big ones for sure. But we'll see what 2024 brings. It's just around the corner. Okay, let's move on to our next segment. We're calling Hobby Hot Takes. We actually used to do this as our pick one segment every other week for anyone that was listening to us back in the day. They'll remember this. But and it's when we offered a couple of hobby hot takes. But then we just stuck with just picking 2 cards. It seemed easier that way, and people enjoyed that more. But today we're going to bring the hobby hot takes back for this episode. And I'll start because I thought of one earlier this week when I posted it in our podcast chat group. And John thought it was a pretty hot take. So I said, let's discuss it on the pod. Okay. And I said, Anthony Edwards is going to be a top 5 active basketball player in the hobby by next year. Okay. And here's my case before you guys tell me if this is a hot take or not. If you check out the team this year, the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's early, I know, but they're 8-3 as of this recording, 3rd in the West. And Ant-Man has a lot to do with that. You know, he's 12th in points per game, ahead of guys like Paul George and John's favorite player, LeBron James. Plus, you know, Ant-Man, he's a character, right? And he's got attitude. I don't know if you saw the clip when Draymond chirped at him after committing a hard foul against Edwards, and Edwards made fun of Draymond, saying, "No one is worried about you," you know, and or know who he is. So, and you know, if that's not enough, he was in Hustle, okay, that basketball movie. It was a good basketball movie.
He's good.
Star Adam Sandler. Yeah,
he's good. Actually,
he's got acting chops.
Yeah.
As the villain, right, of the movie. So I am looking to buy. So let's start with John. Still think it's a hot take?
Yes, I think it's I mean, there are a lot of people that are high on Ant, and I think they will agree that is not a hot take. But I think it's a hot take. Like getting into the top 5, you know, Luka, Giannis, I don't know, maybe Steph Curry's on his way out. I don't know, but KD, like there's big. Is he gonna leapfrog Jason Tatum? I don't know. Maybe. Is Jason Tatum even in the top 5? I don't even know. So.
How about if you think like top 5 in terms of okay, it's certainly more of a hot take when you think of just NBA top players.
Yeah, you're talking about like hobby value?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. Chase and people like, you know, like certain players, right?
Yeah. Hobby value wise, okay. I would be a little bit more on board with the hot take.
I'll take that.
Hobby wise, yeah. Because of all the things you mentioned of him outside of just the basketball player, his swagger, his you know, his cockiness in a funny way. He's also like a funny character in interviews. He says a lot of brash, like sort of hilarious comments. So I could see it.
All right, I'll take it.
I think as a hobby, I don't know. I think he came in hot with LaMelo, and anybody who came out of that era has been, you know, super pumped, I'd say. And like, look, I'll give you an example. What I know Anthony Edwards is killing it, and he's 22 years old. But in terms of hobby price, you believe that he's undervalued because of that? Because I think he is in a sort of way, but then you realize you compare him to guys like Trae Young, for instance, who's kind of produced similar results, and he gets no love still. Right, so it's like, is Anthony Edwards overpriced from the get-go because he came in the class of LaMelo, and he was the chase, and now prices have been at that $600 mark for a PSA 10 silver, for instance. Is that
right?
Would that be considered overpriced for a younger modern card nowadays? Right? I think there might be a space, unless he wins MVP or something. Right. Where, you know, his prices go up, but I think his prices aren't gonna move a lot if he doesn't, you know, win a scoring title or become that top 5 player that you're referring to.
Yep. Facts.
Yeah. I'm just saying this because I saw it, and this is a really hot take, but someone said Ant-Man, he's the next Michael Jordan. He's the Michael Jordan of this generation.
Blazing
the conversation, but it's someone said it, you know. So it's that's out there in the ether,
right?
You know, like
I will agree that he looks like Michael Jordan, and his face, like he physically looks like Michael Jordan.
Come on,
well, that's way too far. Come on.
Well, yeah, I would agree, but I think there's potential. I like I like, and what you were saying, Hyung, like, I think if you go beyond his silver prisms, like his Contender Optics Auto, like it is priced around 15 to 2,000, I think, for some of his, depending on the grade. And I think it's kind of where it should be now. I was hoping that would be cheaper. But I do see a scenario where it could double if if everything breaks right for him. So it wouldn't surprise me, but yeah, things would have to definitely break right for him. Anyway, that was what I was thinking the other week and wanted to bring that up. John, you said you have one yourself?
Yeah, I got a couple.
Okay.
John was the king of hot takes. He would take the
true.
hottest takes versus the hottest takes.
I'm excited to hear what he has.
I'm not saying that I agree with some of these hot takes. I got a couple. I'm just saying hot takes for the sake of hot takes. So,
okay,
99% of cards will never get back to COVID era prices.
Oh yeah, that's not even a hot take. That's
I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, maybe that one. Maybe, okay, I start off with an easy one. Maybe that's not a hot take.
Well, no, maybe people need to hear that because maybe they disagree with that. I agree with that. I think it is a hot take.
Yeah,
people are going to throw stones at you though.
I know people already think I'm a hater, so maybe I should. Hey, John, I think that's a hot take. Okay, I need people to get back on my side.
Okay, I
think that was an easy
my
one.
second one, the MLB patch will take over Bowman First Supers as the holy grail for baseball.
Ooh, okay.
That is a good hot take. I disagree with it though. I after seeing it, I like it, but what about the stars that don't have one?
But from here on out, right?
Here on out. But Corbin Carroll, for instance, was a perfect example. It's like people would chase Corbin Carroll. He's not even in it, right? So it's like now moving forward, these so-called superstars that might not make, or like a Volpe, for instance.
Or Jason Dominguez.
Solid season, not the greatest season. He's the biggest chase. Him and Jordan Walker. Right? Doesn't really excite me, to be honest. I personally would rather have the Volpe superfractor. Like, I like the idea of, and maybe I'm wrong in the future, but I just think the Bowman Chrome superfractor just has so much history with the Mike Trout sale, with all these six-figure massive sales. So until the Volpe is a bounty for $150K. Like, that's manufactured. There's conspiracy on that, right? So it's like, that's not true value where,
Right.
So, I would take the super over it. But I do like that hot take because I could see why people are saying that it's the new logo man of, the baseball world.
And it should be technically impossible to have a second one of one. So integrity-wise, it would hold up as a true one of one.
Can you imagine?
Imagine multiple debuts show up. Oh man, that would be.
Where did they get these extra patches?
I'm leaving.
I only saw
Clark.
one
I'm done
in that
with Cards to
uniform.
the moon. Like if there's another 101 that's duplicated in the patches.
Yeah. I like that hot take too, but I agree with Hyung 100%. I think the history behind superfractors is enough to keep the superfractor where it is as the number one coveted chase for hardcore baseball card collectors. But who knows? Like, I think if you ask this question 20 years from today,
might be different. Yeah.
It might be a different conversation.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you guys. Even though I mentioned the hot take, it's a fun one to think about. It's not impossible, but because of the history, because of how unique Bowman First is to baseball, I think it'll be extremely, extremely difficult to knock down the throne. So yeah, agreeance. Related to Bowman First, my third hot take and final hot take. Bowman U basketball will become what Bowman First is to baseball. It'll be the prospect.
I already
Keep in mind, the licensing is coming, is it not? Because that's one of the things that are really sorely missed in Bowman.
Yeah, but for me, I was thinking about like the whole thing. It's like Panini and National Treasure, or National Treasures and Flawless, like that's like the basketball standard. And to replace something like that, that's what I was saying. What's going to replace? I'm like, there's no way people are going to buy into the first chromes for basketball as a replacement for like Flawless and NT and Immaculate, right? So to me, it's like Panini has done a crazy job with establishing that high-end brand for Panini. I think it's going to be very hard to replace. It's kind of like the Upper Deck Exquisite brand, right? It carries so much legacy. So it's like that next chapter of basketball, football, of what Fanatics is going to do to replace that, it's going to be very different. If I were Fanatics, I would buy Panini just for that brand name sake of Flawless and NT, to be honest. But yeah, I'm going to say absolutely not. It won't. They need to find a solution though, because Flawless and Immaculate and NT is an amazing set.
Yeah, that's a super hot take, and I don't see it happening either. Maybe just while you're talking, Hyung, maybe if Topps Fanatics, when they take over, right? Like if they created I don't know if Bowman Chrome U will be it. It's got to be another product that mimics, like Hyung was saying,
the higher end
or National Treasure.
The higher end Topps, like a Topps Dynasty,
thicker stock,
maybe. Dynasty, maybe.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Maybe. Yep.
Yeah.
And even that will get getting used to.
Yeah,
for
it's Topps. Yeah.
Basketball card collectors.
I am in agreement with you guys. I think for me, one of the things that was sorely missed in Bowman U is the licensing. So the images of Wemby in a San Antonio uniform. Once that comes, I think it would be good for the product. But those that are buying into Bowman U thinking it could become, I used to have a hard time thinking about it, but the more and more I think I am convinced that this is the hottest of takes, and it most likely will not happen. And the reason I'm most convinced is baseball is unique because when you get drafted, there's a period where the prospects have to marinate in the minors, right?
Right.
So the excitement of a draft happening, or your team, going out into free agent signing of like a 16-year-old player, hyped kid, you get that product up front, right? But NBA, NFL, NHL, the hype of Connor McDavid getting drafted, you're in the NHL immediately. The hype of LeBron getting drafted, you're in the NBA immediately. So there is a corresponding product that is going to satisfy
the pre-casino to the casino.
Yes, it's going to immediately satisfy that draft pick chase. Whereas in baseball, there is nothing to satisfy the draft pick chase. So the Trout thing happened and it ignited it, but now I think it's become that sort of draft pick chase, and it satisfies that need. So it's unique to baseball, and I think people are sorely mistaken thinking that Bowman U is going to become that for basketball, because the basketball has it's right immediate. Like Wemby is going to get the Prizm product. Right. It should actually be more immediate, but Prizm is delayed by 8 months or whatever. It's delayed because of COVID. Right. So yeah, it's not going to happen. I think it's a hot take.
No, excellent points for sure. Hyung, do you have one?
Yeah, actually, I'll throw one out. So Ohtani was named MVP today.
Oh, he was
today.
Oh, nice.
Same with Acuna. Congratulations. Hopefully you guys saved your Topps Chrome MVP
actually,
buybacks.
Before you say anything, I had my Acuna Topps Chrome, the one that I got from the 2023 Topps Chrome we pulled months back. And that was on eBay for the longest time. And then suddenly today I saw someone bought it. And I'm like, shoot, he won the MVP. Someone got a good deal. So congratulations, okay? Anyway, go ahead.
What are they, $20?
It's $20 for the base.
For the base. And then 40 for the refractor. Okay, so Ohtani was named MVP again. Mm-hmm. Killer season. He did it with 3/4 of the season too. Right. So I'm going to say that Ohtani's prices will drop in the next 8 months still. So if you invest in Ohtani today, you will, in general, his market will go down in 8 months, 6 to 8 months. You're going to see a bear run on Ohtani now.
Ooh.
Bear run? I think that's a hot take. I don't think it's going to drop that much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in the off season, I mean, this is just by my observation because Shohei Ohtani rookie card autos are on my watch list every single day. And I'm like, oh, frig, it's still expensive, right?
Yeah,
and I'm sure
it has gone down a bit, but the reason why I mentioned it is because Ohtani is probably not going to come out hot in spring training, especially on obviously not pitching. He's going to come in as a DH. He's going to take it really slow. I think the hype of Ohtani is going to be so high, but then it's like he's not doing the same thing he's doing. So my thing is the prices are already super high. Ohtani has gone through the craziest 2-year bull run that we've ever seen on almost any baseball player. Yeah. So for me, it's when he stops doing what he was doing for the last 2-3 years, cards will immediately recorrect itself because people need cash and people have invested in Ohtani. And I kind of look at like, I guess there's the VIX index. I don't know if you guys, they're the fear and index. So I believe we're entering even a worser economic stage. So I think people that have really high end Ohtanis are going to cash out before they see kind of like any type of movement in a negative way. And I think there's going to be more people selling than buying. So that's why I put it out there. Whether that's true or not, who knows? Ohtani could come out and hit 50 home runs in spring training and, he'd be like, I could be totally wrong on that. But that's the position I'm taking. I'm not saying I agree with this hot take, but.
I think in any other situation, any other year, I would wholeheartedly agree with Hyung. I'm just thinking, he's a free agent. And I think there's going to be no question there's going to be a bit of a price bump if and when he signs. Cubs, Dodgers, Seattle Mariners.
Blue
Jays, please, God, Blue Jays.
Yes.
And then the spring training hype of him being in the lineup with the new Dodgers look and Mookie Betts. And, if it is the Dodgers, I'm just saying, I think there's going to be hype there too, even though he wouldn't be pitching. So, could I see a downward price trend for Ohtani from here on out? Yeah, I could, even still. But I don't think it's going to be as bad of a bear run as you might think because of the fact that he's a free agent. Any other year, 100% agree. But because he's a free agent, I think that will help keep his prices, let's say, at bay.
I agree with those points too. Actually, and then we can end off this segment with my one last hobby hot take. And it's actually something to do with Shohei, funny enough. And it's going the other way, from what you said, Hyung. So this is my hot take. Shohei Ohtani. Okay, let me first ask you this question. How many designated hitters have won the regular season MVP in MLB history?
I don't think they can.
No idea.
Because DH was implemented later, and they don't have enough defensive WAR to push the WAR. The reason why Ohtani is averaging like a 10 WAR is because he's doing it from both sides, not just
to answer that question.
DH.
To answer that question, Shohei Ohtani had 6 offensive WAR and 4 from pitching to equal 10, and that was number 1 in the league. Yeah. You're right about that.
Okay. So the DH, I think it'd be very, very hard, especially in the new. Like I look at DHs and I'm like, I don't know how many DHs
has there been any
qualify.
Barry Bonds?
The answer is to the question. The answer is 0.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I thought.
But Paul Molitor did win a World Series MVP as a DH.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's and that was 93. That was 93.
Right. 90, I believe so. Yeah.
92, 93.
With the Jays.
We should know this, man.
But anyway, okay. So that's the context. 92. Okay. Here's the hot take. Shohei is going to win his 3rd MVP in 4 years next season, even as just a DH, becoming the first one to do so.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Here, okay. Oh, wait. This is my numbers crunching, okay? So you're right. He has to get all of his WAR from just offense, right? So he got 6 this year, and you know how much defensive WAR he got this season? Minus 1.1. Okay, so he's a liability there. So all right, we don't have to worry about that. Okay, that's better for him that he's not playing defense. Okay, so he DH, he's got 6.
That's crazy.
But if he focuses on just hitting, because he knows next season he's not pitching at all, right? Just focus on hitting. He had 44 homers this past year, batted .304, 102 runs, 95 rubies, 20 stolen bases, right? So these numbers are pretty ridiculous in less than 500 at bats. Okay, so that's good for 6 offensive WAR. And the other, who is he up against? So I was looking at the National League, but compare him to Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. Just say he plays with the Dodgers.
Right.
Let's say that's the scenario. And those are the other two besides Acuna in the National League as MVP candidates. Their offensive WAR were both 7.5. Mookie and Freddie Freeman were both tied at 7.5. Okay, and then their defensive, Mookie added another 0.9. So I think he finished second with 8.4. So is there a scenario where he could bump up his offensive numbers just because he's focusing on
I don't
batting?
think so.
Really? Even with 50 plus homers?
Hang on, is he doing Tommy John? What's
Here's
the surgery?
TJ, I believe, Tommy John.
Here's why. Can you hit?
Yeah,
while
I don't
recovering from
think
Tommy
it would
John?
be. I don't think there will be any
like zero.
any
Like you'd be
issues with
100% hitter.
Zero
like
issues.
No pain.
Zero
Nothing.
issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's done it before.
Yeah, I know he has, but I remember he was like in and out of the lineup because of issues.
Here's why I say.
One more. You know who won the MVP last year? Do you guys remember? You guys remember? It wasn't Shohei. It should have been Shohei, but it wasn't Shohei. Aaron Judge. His WAR that year, 60 plus home runs, was 10.6. His offensive WAR was 10.4.
Right. There's 60 home runs though. And he had 300.
I'm saying Shohei is
capable.
Here's why.
He's capable.
Here's why. He's definitely capable. I love Shohei Ohtani. I think he's the best player in the world. Okay. I think he's the best player that we've seen in a very long time. I don't think he's the best hitter. I think he's the best player. Like, we're talking, this guy's pitching and hitting at the same time. I don't think he is the Barry Bonds type hitter, the pure hitter of he should be hitting 300 every year, first of all. I think if he's hitting 300, he's had a very, very good season in terms of his approach. He's seeing it well. If he hits 40 plus home runs, he's absolutely having a massive monster season, which he had. Last year, his barrels were so loud. But I just don't think, I think he's truly a 280, 30 to 40 home run guy and 100 RBI guy, to be honest. That would be a very good season for Ohtani offensively. Can he hit 50, 60 home runs? I think so. I think it's in there. He has to be hot at the right time. But in baseball's past, I don't see it happening. The way I see it is he'll have maybe a little more down year and then up year in a couple years, or it's not going to just be progressively up, right? So yeah, I just think that it is a super hot take because, you know, there's so many good hitters in both American League and National League, and they have advantages from both sides, defensively and offensively, that could contribute, where Ohtani just has his offensive side. So I'm going to say no, as a hitter, it won't happen. He's going to be around the 4 to 6 WAR. If he has a super season, it's going to be upwards to 7, 8.
Okay. I don't know if it's a super hot take. It might be just a hot take, but what do you think, John?
So he batted .304. He led the league
with 44.
Yeah.
And 500, less than 500 at bats, right? So let's say he could bat 600 at bats, right? Like
led the American League in OBP, slugging, OPS plus, total bases. He hit 44, 34 last year, 46 the year before, both pitching and batting. It's a hot take, but it's not impossible. Like, I mean, he if he just focuses on, I mean, he's clearly a pretty darn good hitter too. Like, I get what Hyung's saying. You put him into like elite category as a hitter, you know, like a pure Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds we're talking like arguably the greatest hitter of all time. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to feed into the Ohtani hype. So I think if somebody's really relying on this, I think for sure you can, like, it's going to be it's going to have to take an unbelievable season for that to happen. So I think it is a hot take, but it's possible. It's possible.
I'm just saying, if anyone could do it, it's Shohei. If anyone in this world, in the history of baseball, can do it, it's Shohei. Although, history is against him. No DH has ever won a regular season MVP. But just imagine the scenario where he does. Okay, just say he has an Aaron Judge type year, right? And I don't even know, is Aaron Judge good at defense?
I mean he's
right?
not bad. I would put him up there. I'd say he's. I don't know what's his defense.
Okay, so his defensive WAR in that MVP season was 0. So he's not a liability, but he's right. I guess average, right? So he got most of his 10.6 WAR, 10.4 of them just from offense, right? So just say he hits 50 to 60, and that it's not easy to do. So I certainly recognize this as a hot take, right? But can you imagine if he does that, and then the following year he comes back to pitching? Like, his cards, this might be the buy low opportunity that you get right now. So I'm just saying, just keep it on your watch list. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
I'm saying 6 to 8 months is the buying period.
If he stays healthy for the rest of his career,
if there's a guy that's going to do it, it's Shohei.
DH. Like, we could be, statistics. I don't know. We could be looking at. We might already be looking at the greatest player of all time. Who knows? That might be a hot take for some.
Yeah. Okay. But
I mean, goodness, that would be insane.
Forget about MVP. If he is chasing like 50, I guess Matt Olson did it, right? He hit, how many did he hit in the National League? 54 or something.
I think he has to go 60 plus. Like, it's got to be like,
he's got to be chasing 60.
Got to be in that Roger Maris, like that kind of territory.
You replace Aaron Judge's season last year with what Shohei could do next year. His card prices are going to go phenomenal. Yeah,
regardless
his card
of
prices
MVP,
are going to be ridiculous. And regardless of not pitching, like that's the only narrative that will sustain his values to the moon at that level.
So Matt Olson, that's a good. Can you look up his defensive WAR really quick? So he offensively, he hit 283, had 54 home runs and 139 RBIs. Ooh. So pretty crazy season. So that was good enough for 7.4 WAR. Yeah.
So 6.6 offensive WAR for Matt Olson.
Yeah, and that's 54 bombs, 283. That's where I see Ohtani, 280, 285. 40 to 50 maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
100. So, but hey, if there's someone that can hit 60, I wouldn't be surprised if Ohtani does it, because that guy just surprises us every year, right? So
his swing is like his approach at the plate is phenomenal. Like,
it's because he's like the nicest kid too. He's so nice.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, how could you hate this guy?
Well, did you see when he won the MVP? He was with his puppy.
Yeah, it's incredible, man.
Yeah. You gotta love Shohei. And just to put a bow on this, Matt Olson's defensive WAR was also 0, so a lot of it was just from the offensive side. All right. That was another fun segment, Hobby Hot Takes. We got to do this more often. We'll have John lead the segment because he always has 3 or 4 ready to go. So we'll give you another month to prepare. I think that's fair. All right, let's end off this episode with a regular weekly segment called Pick One. And this is where each of us pick a couple cards and then we debate which one we would rather invest in. All right. So, Hyung, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll stay on this topic actually, and it's not going to be cards. So we're going to talk Shohei Ohtani a bit. So is he won the NL MVP AL MVP? So it's would you invest in Shohei right now, or would you invest in Luka Doncic right now as a better investment long term?
Whoa.
Long term?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Let's just say you had $5,000, and I'm saying I'm locking this $5,000 in either a Shohei or a Luka. Which one is it gonna be?
I'll go first because I already did.
I know you already did it, so I was like, Clark. Yeah.
Even though I'm a baseball guy, I just think Luka's got longevity. I think he'll be in the NBA a long time. He'll be in the top 10, for years to come. And who knows how long the Mavs could keep it up this season, but we could see a spike if the Mavs overperform this season. And obviously Luka is leading the charge there. So I like Luka long term. I like what he represents to the NBA as well. I mean, Shohei is definitely ambassador for the MLB as well. So that's kind of a wash in that sense of being their own respective league ambassadors. But and in terms of health too, right? Like longevity it's part of staying healthy. And, we're already seeing Shohei, he's not going to pitch next year. Although I'm making in the previous segment, I was making a hot take that Shohei could do unimaginable things, but in reality, I think Luka's a safer bet in that regard. So that's why I did spend $5K, $6K on a Luka rookie card. Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
I think I still firmly believe Luka is generational in basketball. The tough part here is Ohtani looks to be generational across all sports. Like this, we're talking ridiculous. Like, what's a generational word for like century? Like that's that
centurion.
He's a centurion. Like that's Ohtani, right? And I think the tough part here is there's a clear buy low, buy high scenario, right? I think the immediate answer is Luka because his card has corrected so much while Ohtani has been going to the moon. Well, the thing with Ohtani is I think Luka at this point for his card prices to be going up as a generational player. Like people want to see him win championships. It's kind of like the McDavid scenario. Yeah, you're great. Yeah, you're generational, but you got to win championships. Like McDavid, his legacy is on the line because he's got to win. Same with Luka. Like these guys got to win. Ohtani is just so greatly generational. I think his pricing will be great because like we just talked about, him winning MVP as a DH hitter, him winning MVP just from batting, whatever. Like I think his statistical prowess, just because of how ridiculously special he is, ignites his prices regardless of championships. Now, if he wins championships wherever he signs, boom, great. But I don't think Ohtani's prices, he needs championships in his legacy for his card prices to be ridiculous. So I think long term, now the risk in injury is a big part of Ohtani, but I think long term, because how special Ohtani, like I don't think people are quite comprehending how ridiculously special this is across all sports. So long term for me, I know his pricing is high right now, but I think it's Ohtani for me.
Oh, interesting.
John always throws that changeup. That changeup, I just swing right through it. Man, although I believe Luka's a buy, I think I look at his NT and Flawless still, and it's pretty healthy. Like, I mean, it's pretty expensive. And I look at Ohtani's Bowman Chrome and Topps Chrome. I would say that's the equivalent to his NT, and that's why his prices are so high. But I think relatively to like an NT or Flawless, it's pretty cheap, his Bowman Chrome color autos, right? So I think when I compare side to side, it's just Luka still has a lot of winning to do, maybe even start with an MVP for me, because this is Shohei's second MVP in the last 2 years. He's won a Rookie of the Year. He's 29 years old. To me, he's something that I've never seen in my whole baseball life. Like, I don't think we'll see someone of that caliber, that good at both sides in a real long time. You just don't see it. So, and if he hadn't won any brass in terms of MVPs, then I would say it's apples to apples. Now, given that, Ohtani has 5 years up on Luka. So realistically, career-wise, because Ohtani's 29, Luka's 24. Luka's still learning the game. He's still getting better. Who knows? He might go and, win MVP this year. Who knows, right? So there's that side of it. Like, I do like Luka's ceiling, but in this case, I'm so sold on Ohtani. If it was anybody else but Ohtani, I would pick Luka. But because I'm almost like in awe of how good Ohtani is.
And everybody should be, rightfully. Yeah.
Yeah, like then to the point where celebrities of other sports are super fans of Ohtani, right? Like the LeBrons, these guys that are the goats of their relative. I shouldn't say that, but they're really good at their relative sports.
Right.
Like they have so much respect for someone like Shohei. So, like, yeah, I'm at this point with the second MVP. I don't think a third one's out of the picture for Ohtani, and I think there might be more down the road as well, as long as he stays healthy. That's the question. But he's already won 2, and he's 29 years old. Now he's in the category of Trout, Bryce Harper, and he's more fun than both of them right now, right? So I'm going to go Ohtani in the long run, but it's very close. It's very close. And I'm not saying your Luka was definitely a great buy. I think that's the right buy based on the timing of it.
For sure. Yeah. Let me ask you, do championships matter?
In baseball, no.
Oh, you don't think so,
no.
huh?
Griffey hasn't won one.
Good point.
It might be the exception.
Yeah, like there's guys.
I mean, that's the conversation with Mike Trout, right? That's a knock on him too, right?
For sure, and I don't think people understand how difficult it is to win a championship.
Of course, look at the Texas Rangers. No one predicted the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, and they should maybe have been in the playoff, like
right.
The way the formats are, and it's who's hot at the right time. So. I don't think people make a big deal about like stuff like that where the format was the reason why these guys won and that's why they won a championship. But yeah, I think basketball, it matters a lot more because, there's 5 players on a court, that superstar is the person that they're basically relying on. Whereas Trout, this is proven. You have Trout and Ohtani on the same team, 2 of the best offensive players and one of the best pitchers, and they can't even sniff a playoff. It's like baseball is more than just 1 or 2 players. It's literally 25 players, including the manager, and everybody's engaged. So I think it doesn't matter as much. I mean, it helps though. If you're like a Derek Jeter, somebody who's known for that, then that's a plus.
Next level. Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Like Ohtani, he's so special. Even this year, like we talk about after the 3rd year, there's kind of like the hype stage is over. Like, I mean, Ohtani's in that stage, year 4, year 5, and his cards go to the moon because that's how special he is. I've never heard of anybody saying, he's great, but he's got to win some championships before I commit any more money. Like, I have not heard one person say that. It's like, Ohtani is ridiculous, right? So I think Ohtani's just that special where the championship talk, people are just so in awe of what the heck he's doing on the field as a player that the championship thought is just so not relevant for him. So yeah, he's that special.
3rd MVP next season. All right, John, you're next.
Okay, so bear with me. Mine is a 1v6. Which would you rather pick?
Always bending the rules. Okay, go ahead.
And we're talking like high end. This is nowhere near. It's completely hypothetical.
Okay.
1952. It just sold recently. I think this might be one of the more recent major sales. 1952 Mantle PSA 8, Pop 35, just sold for 1.17 million, just under 1.2 million. Ooh. Would you rather that or 6 cards? Ohtani Bowman Chrome Red Auto PSA 9 that sold last not that long ago for $276,000. Messi Mega Cracks PSA 10 Pop 19, $260,000. Tiger Woods SB Authentic Gold Auto Pop 16 PSA 10 $76,000. O-Pee-Chee Wayne Gretzky PSA 9 Pop 92 $114,000. Jordan 86 Fleer PSA 10 $188,000. And the 2000 Brady Contenders Auto PSA 10 $289,000 for a total of $1.2 million.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, like, and mind you, like a couple of these cards sold like May of 2023, so they could be
sure.
You know, like we could be talking
half of my body is telling me like those 6 cards, like that would be a sick collection.
You got but all the greats, like the grails of the greats.
Man, PSA 8 is a very good Mantle card. Like it's very, nice. Very good. Like, good Lord. For me, the collector in me wants those 6 cards, but for me, the Mantle's on the next level. Like, you're talking, do you want to drive my Bugatti or my Lambo? The Bugatti is like next level, right? So it's like that's the Mantle. That's the Mantle where I'm at. Like it's just such a next level card and iconic, like Mona Lisa type art that I can't not go with the other cards. I have to go with the 52 Mantle. I was looking at the pop report today actually, and it's crazy. A PSA pop report on the Mantles are nuts. Because that was a super overprinted, like all of them are done. Gone. They're trashed in the ocean. So it's like, yeah, right. It's such a iconic card that I think will forever be the staple of the hobby.
Yeah, Mona Lisa.
So my final answer is the Grail. Yeah, that's the Grail.
You see, I don't see it as the Bugatti versus the Lambo. I see it as the Bugatti versus 6 Lambos.
Right. Well, 6 Lambos would cost 1 Bugatti.
Right. So
yeah,
you know, give one to my friends, my family.
I'll take one, Clark.
Sure. You know, I like this one, but I'm gonna go with the 6 cards simply because, well, one of the main reasons because is what would bring me the most happiness if I had the 1 card. Which is amazing. Obviously, the 1952 Mantle is iconic, and the PSA 8 is ridiculous. But all those 6 cards, like that's just, I could show off that collection more to a lot more people, you know, with different sports taste and you know, like I would just be proud of that collection. And I think it does come to whether, you know, we talk about collector versus investor. You know, I think all 3 of us are both, right? But you know, I think the collector side comes out of me on this pick one, whereas that is like amazing collection anyone would have, and the Mantle is one of those things where it's definitely iconic in the hobby, but for newer collectors too. I wonder if it continues to just be iconic as new collectors come into play. It'll always be iconic for a certain generation, but I don't know if that'll be the case as newer collectors come in.
Now, I thought about this too. Would your answer change if it was strictly investment? Like you don't really care about cards, but you've got $1.2 million to invest in sports cards as an investment. Right. As an investment, would that change your answer?
I think it would. Yeah, I think I would go for the Mantle. I think it's just safer. It's just kind of like a bond at that point. And there's a few in that portfolio of 6 cards that I could see still take a further dip.
Right.
That would
86 Fleer Jordan,
so
maybe?
I would take the Mantle. Yes.
Okay, I'm the last one. I think you guys are going to know my answer. I had a tough time with this. I'm right on the same idea as Clark. I think if I was strictly an investor, probably the easy move is the Mantle. You know, going back to what Hyung was saying, it's less work to eventually sell it. And I think the Mantle is super, super safe. You're talking the Mona Lisa of sports card collecting. And I think even if you don't know anything about sports cards, and even in the future, just like how the, like even the test of, like, we didn't watch Mantle, but it just continues to
That's true.
stand the test of time. Like, it's just like of
Right.
legendary status, of lore. Like, it's just one of these cards that everyone will know of if you get into the hobby. So, So investment wise, I think it's easy. But for me, just straight looking at it as an investor collector, I have to go with the 6. I think it's just too cool to have a portfolio of. I mean, Ohtani, you can argue, shouldn't be on the list. I just threw it in there to kind of make the money work. But if he goes down as what we think he might go down as, I think you're holding the all-time greats of every sport, right? And Mantle isn't
Yes, sir.
Mantle isn't really on the list, if we're being honest. Mantle is there because his card is the Holy Grail. But in terms of like the goats of the goats in every sport, I think it'd be just too cool to have that kind of a portfolio. So give me the 6. But yeah, it was a tough one. I had to think about this one a lot.
That's good.
It's a good one. I like it. All right, I'll finish off with my pick 1. It's 1 versus 10 cards. Are you ready? No. I'm gonna bring it down to earth, okay? Just a little bit. You got $1,000, and these sold for $1,000 this in November, okay? And I'm using the Bowman Chrome base auto as the standard. Mookie Betts, Bowman, and I'm actually thinking about this, okay? Mookie Betts, the 24 Bowman, first Bowman Chrome auto, BGS 9.5 auto 10, sold for just over $1,000. Okay, that's where it is now. And on the other side, you got Juan Soto, his Bowman Chrome first auto, 2016, sold for just under $1,000. So you got $1,000. Let's just make it even. $1,000. Which one would you rather spend it on? Juan Soto or Mookie Betts?
I do like Juan Soto a lot, more than I should. But I think Mookie Betts is so underrated, so undervalued, period. I think people don't realize how good Mookie's Betts career is, and he has so much more in the tank. This guy's going to be a 100-plus WAR guy. Not too many guys have 100-plus WAR. So for me, I think Mookie Betts is a smarter move here, especially now. And we've been saying this for the last couple of years. You're seeing a lot of correction just in general with a lot of these cards, a lot of these modern cards. I still think there's room for correction on both sides, where guys like Machado, guys like Goldie, guys like Mookie Betts, guys like Arenado, these guys have put up incredible numbers, and when we see how good they actually are relative to kind of like the new guys and what they have to do to kind of get to where they need to be compared to like a Mookie Betts, I think people are going to realize there's such a long way to go for these younger stars like Juan Soto. And I was saying, I know I always compared him to kind of like when he's on, he's like the next Ted Williams, but more accurately, what if he becomes like the next Joey Votto, right? So somewhere in between a Votto, and Votto, in my opinion, is a Hall of Famer too. So that's the type of player I get with Soto. But I think Mookie Betts could surpass kind of like in terms of career wise. I think he could surpass Votto for sure. So and Mookie, his prices are right. I think they're not overpriced. I think there's still a lot of room to grow with Mookie. So I'm going to go Mookie Betts.
Okay.
Oh, that's tough. I think Hyung is the right answer. But I am going to, and Clark wants to hear it because he wants to hear some reasons if he's really on this. I'm going to side on the Juan Soto side, and we might be all blind. We've always talked about Juan Soto, yada, 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 and people out there who no longer believe in Soto as what he thought we thought he was going to become, like Ted Williams. They're probably thinking I'm out of our minds. But I just want to say this. Soto, Mookie Betts is Mookie Betts. Like, we know the ceiling. His cards are going to probably not move much until he starts to have like his swan song, like Pujols, and like gets into the legends role, right? Like towards the end of his career. Soto, I think Soto, there were just too many Soto fans, especially during the pandemic era. And I think people are off him, but still kind of waiting. Everyone's like us. We're just kind of like really kind of hoping and waiting he's going to pop off again. And he may not. That is a risk. And he might just end up being like Joey Votto, and he's just going to end up being like a pretty good, solid player. But I think that hype, the volatility is still there, just like it was for Acuna when he got injured and people thought, oh yeah, this is Acuna now. Like he's a stud, but he's just so injury prone that I'm off him. Like forget Acuna, screw him. I'm moving on to the next greatest thing. If Juan Soto has a monster season next year, and there's going to might be a bit of a spark in his car prices, he could get traded. It could happen. I've heard the Jays. We always hear the Jays. They're like, yeah, it's sad. It's like the New York Knicks. You always hear the rumor, and it just never actually ends up happening.
Right.
So if Soto goes off, it could happen. Maybe a small percentage. He's still on the minds of collectors as that hype player, and I think the volatility is there, and especially when you're, for someone like you, Clark, and for me too, you're going after Bowman first auto base. Like this is not a grail. This is not a long term. Like I think you're probably looking to flip this into an Ohtani or something like that, right? So I think if that's the goal, for me, I think I would rather roll my dice on Soto. So Soto's a pick for me.
It's a good point.
Yeah. I don't know if you can lose with, especially if it's for your PC. Like those both players are going to be amazing. But I'm looking at Mookie Betts. Just a reminder, he was an MVP candidate this year 100%. Again, right? With an 8.4 WAR.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, second, right? 8.4 WAR. Behind Acuna in voting, I believe, and compared to Juan Soto's 5.6, and he hit 35 home runs. Juan Soto hit the most home runs in his career this past season, right? His defense is negative 1.1, and when Mookie Betts' defense, we all know, is spectacular, plus 0.9. So all around better player. Mookie Betts wins by far, or not by far, but definitely wins over Juan Soto in that area. I'm still looking to buy Juan Soto. Next.
He gets no hobby love.
Exactly, right?
But let me just throw this out before.
Sure.
So Mookie Betts is 30 years old. Okay, remember, Ohtani's 29. Ohtani has a 37.5 WAR. Mookie Betts has a 64.5 WAR at 30 years old. So just saying, that's where he is now.
Crazy.
And still no hobby love.
Hobby love. This is where the tide
proving
turns.
My point. Yes. Is Mookie Betts the Giannis of baseball? Do you know what I mean? Where Giannis has the credentials, always there, but in terms of, relative hobby love, like Luka, it costs more or is valued more than Giannis cards. Should that be the case? Just on pure talent? I don't, and based on number of championships, based on number of MVPs? No, right? But the reality is that it is. And I think that's the case here. Juan Soto, I agree with what John mentioned. I think if he goes to the Yankees, for instance, and he does well there, there's a scenario where his prices, peak again. And I think that's what I'm hoping for in investing in Juan Soto over Mookie Betts. Yeah. But if I had $2,000, I would buy both. So there you go. All right, that's another episode of Cards to the Moon. Thank you for joining us, and we'll have a brand new episode for you guys next week. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.